Hi, folks. This is Introduction to Counseling, and this is concerning the Carkhuff method, and this is a single video. So the Carkhuff method was developed by Robert Carkhuff. Robert Carkhuff was a person who studied with Carl Rogers and learned person-centered therapy, but he parted ways with him and wanted to develop a set of practical ways to teach people how to be helpful in different sorts of situations, and that would include business settings. It's a systematic way to understand the differences between effective and ineffective ways of responding to clients, whether that's in a therapeutic situation or just a situation in which someone is talking to you about something important. Okay? He's written a number of good books. One is The Art of Helping. I forget whether that's the 7th or 8th edition now, but it's a good book. Most people consider it a bit passé, but I like it. Helping in Human Relationships, Beyond Counseling and Therapy, The Skills of Helping. Those are all very good books. Now, Carkhuff took the skills that Rogers developed and put it into a systematic approach, okay? A usable model. And he said, first thing, is that people tend to respond on one of 5 different levels that he was able to determine within the 3 basic phases of counseling. And the 3 basic phases of counseling are, first, the exploration phase, where people discuss what's going on and the history of that and their ideas about that and their feelings about that and how they relate to all of these sorts of things. This is discovery both for the client and for the therapist. The second phase is the understanding phase, where the client begins with you, the counselor, to understand the connections between things and what gave rise to what and what the thoughts and the feelings are and how those are connected to each other. And then the third phase is the action phase. And that's where you begin to set up the plans you began to make in the understanding phase and put those into use. And so there's things like troubleshooting, and there's trial and error sometimes, and tweaking, adjustment of either goals or of methods. All sorts of things occur in the action phase. Okay? So the core components of the Carkhuff system, or the Carkhuff method, are pretty similar to those of person-centered therapy. Empathy, respect, concreteness, genuineness and self-disclosure, confrontation, and immediacy. I think you all know what those are, yes? Empathy is showing that you understand, demonstrating that you understand a person's frame of reference, giving them the respect of your time and undivided attention. Concreteness, meaning that you don't speak in ethereal or abstract ways to people. Genuineness and self-disclosure means that you are consistent with your own feelings and thoughts in what you say and do, and maybe even disclose some things about you and your history to a client if necessary, if useful. Confrontation, meaning not the kind of confrontation that we ordinarily think of with yelling and screaming and so forth. No. Or calling people out. No. Confrontation means calling attention to the connection between things that the client may not see, or things that the client is doing, a thing that the client is doing that they may not be aware of in terms of it's having a negative effect. And then immediacy, the ability to handle and process emotions, even strong ones, in the sessions. Okay? So let me go through the 5 levels, okay? The 5 levels. Level 1 is the level sometimes called discounting feelings. Level 1 is where a lot of people converse with others. The way a lot of people at this level use their words to, in fact, invalidate people. They say things like, "Oh, don't worry about it. We all have problems worse than that. You think you got a problem? Listen to this. You think that's a problem? Oh, man. You must have done something really bad to cause that. Man, that's some serious karma you got going on there." That's not helpful. That's disrespectful. That's not empathic. Okay? That's abusive. Okay. Level 2 is sometimes called the level of giving advice. This is the most common level at which average conversations take place, slightly more common than level 1. Also not good, because what it does is simply offer a cliche, often, to someone who is expressing their pain and difficulty. You're not doing well in school? Wow, you need to study harder. All in a day's work. It's darkest before the dawn. Why don't you just make more friends? So giving advice and cliches, abundant. Okay? Don't tell people what to do, and don't give them cliches. Level 3 is the level of proof that you are listening, the level of exact exchanges. So here's where you actually reflect content and emotion. Content are the facts they give you, emotion or feeling or affect, which is expressed emotion, that they tell you in what they say. Okay? So someone might say, I really don't know what's going on. Sam is going out of town and he's not coming back. I don't know what to do. You're sad because your best friend moved out of town. That's really difficult. Okay? That's a 3.0. Okay? You're happy because your team won. You feel anxious because you have a big talk you have to give. You are using reflection. Okay? Now, level 4 and level 5 are ones not common in the first session usually, certainly not with beginning counselors. Level 4 is often a goal identification with a little bit of a push. So someone says how anxious they are, how afraid they are that the problem that they've tried to fix isn't getting any better. You might say, you're anxious right now because what you've tried to do yet hasn't worked, but you're still not sure what there is to try that might actually still work. You're anxious because you have to give a speech and you want to figure out how to be more confident about it. Even though they didn't say that necessarily. They've come to you and you are enlightening. Basically, in a way, confronting the underlying hopefulness there. So it may actually be a reframe. It's a reframing their position to one that includes a possibility. And I'm just beginning with these levels, you understand. A level 5 is a plan initiation. So this is where you're looking at what to do to fix the problem, okay? And putting things together for them that weren't together before, okay? Again, this is something that would require lots of sessions and probably at least a few, and lots of 3.0 and 4.0 responses. Okay, so let's go back through the system, the summary, okay? Level 1, the 1.0, is the discounting. It ignores, it ridicules, it challenges a perception of a client. It detracts very significantly. It's very destructive to exploration and to understanding. There's no empathy here. It's even aggression in some ways by a client, by a counselor. It's somewhat common in everyday conversation. The 2.0 is the advice-giving level or the cliche level. communicates a very partial understanding of surface feelings or condition. It'll trigger defensiveness. It's very mechanical and easy to produce. It is the most common form of communication in everyday conversation. 3.0 is the proof you're listening. It's interchangeable responses. Interchangeable. In other words, what they say and what you say are interchangeable with each other, essentially, but you're putting it in your own words. That proves that you're listening. It proves that you understand. So it communicates a warmth. It can help them even identify a problem. It's pretty uncommon in everyday conversation. You won't hear it very much. But it's useful. The level 4 is a slight interpretation, a slight push towards connecting things together beneath the surface. It's still a reflection. It's still accurately reflecting. It communicates to the client that they are a person of worth, and it moves them from vagueness to clarity. But again, you have to build trust within the relationship. Now, it, again, may also involve some level of confrontation, a way of a client seeing something they didn't see. Okay. The 5.0 is the initiating the plan. This puts things from it puts things that weren't concrete into concrete plans. And again, it can only be reached after lots of 3s and 4s, usually. So Carkhuff did a number of studies, and one of the studies told him that you could get pretty close to knowing whether a response was a good one or not, and a good response is a 3, a 4, or 5, or somewhere in between, and not a 1 and a 2. Okay? If you had 100 hours of training, you could get within a half a point of accuracy of if it's good. So you can score anybody's response to be a 1, a 1.5, a 2, a 2.5, and so on. So you can get within a half a point of the correct response just by looking at dialogues, which I'll read to you. A typical parent is often 1.5 points off, and anybody on the street is probably 2 points off. Okay. So here are some exercises. These are things that people have said, and then I'm going to read you some dialogues. And what I want you to do is, I'm going to read dialogues, and I'm going to read responses by counselors, most of which are fictional. But I'm going to read them, and I want you to write down what point total you think they deserve. So open up your PowerPoint and go to the summary of the levels. Level summary in the PowerPoint, right? Okay. So the first dialogue is, I felt so down. It's like everything's going against me. I get this real bad pain and I can't work. I can have an operation, but it might make me impotent. My boy's staying with my niece and her husband, but they think all I do is lay around and then I'm a bum. They're giving me a really hard time. Okay? First counselor's response. You feel really down in the dumps and don't know where to turn. No one to turn to for help, even if you had an idea of what to do. That's a 3 or a 3.5. If you get right in that area, that's about right. It's a little bit more than a 3. It adds a little bit. Not quite a 4, but adds a little. Second response. Boy, I know just how you feel. That's a 2.0. Did you get that one right? C, the third one. Well, you know it's darkest just before the dawn. That's also a 2, because that's a cliche. And the last one. You've mentioned some very real problems here. Perhaps if we take a look at them one by one, we may find some answers. Not so good. 2.5. A little bit better than a 2. But it's really disregarding the person's emotion. And they're really not showing that they really understand what was said. So it's not a 3. See what we're doing here? Okay, the next one. My parents think everything I believe in is wrong and everything they believe in is right. They think I'm just no good. Okay? First counselor said, maybe, you and your parents are worlds apart. And just because you believe in different things, you judge that they never think you're right. 3.0. That's roughly an equivalent phrase. Phraseology and sentence structure, that's essentially the same. The right content, the right feeling. Well, he didn't really talk about feelings in that one, but there's the right content, so that's a 3.0. Second one, you say your parents never give you a chance and never look at your side of things. Sounds like you've lost respect for each other. That's less than a 3, but it's a little better than 2, 2.5. And the reason it's not a 3 is this is really, it sounds like you lost respect for each other. No, that's your psychologizing. You just made that up. You assumed that. They may respect each other very well, usually. But we don't know that. The third one, sure seems like just being different is enough to get you in trouble with your parents, doesn't it? Well, that's actually a question. And just being different is not something that really he said. It's a 17-year-old boy, I should have added. It's a 2.5. It's not quite a 3. It really doesn't effectively reproduce the content or the feelings. The last one, one day you're going to be a parent, and I hope that you are going to look at your parents' side of things just as you'd like them to look at your side. That's not a 3. It's a 2. It's not hostile like a 1, but it's probably a 2. Okay? How you doing? You doing better? Okay. You can go back through this. Pull the tape back and go through each one of them and see if you get them right better a second time. Third dialogue. It makes me so mad. Everybody's always telling me what to do and what not to do. When I'm at home, my parents tell me what's best for me. At work, it's my boss. Even my friends bother me. Everybody's pushing me around. Sometimes I feel like just punching them all in the face. It's better leave me alone and let me do things the way I want to. Whoop. First response. First counselor. You really shouldn't talk that way. Oops, that's a 1. Did you get that right? Second one. Don't get so mad. I think there's a time to take orders and a time to give them. If you said 1.5, that's right. Everybody gets pushed around sometimes during their life, says Counselor 3. 2.0. Everybody pushes you around so much, you feel like letting them have it. Fourth counselor got it right, 3.0. That's basically what he's saying. And the last one, you get so angry when people don't let you do things the way you want to. You just aren't going to let them push you around anymore. That's also a 3.0, see? Getting the hang of it? And the fourth dialogue, this is the last one. I'm hurting all I can stand. It's become too much of a hassle. Life must have more to offer. I want help before it's too late, if it isn't already. This is a woman in her 30s who is very depressed, as you might imagine. First counselor says, life just can't be as bad as you're making it out to be. You're young and you have a lot to live for. 2.0. That's what the average person's going to say. They try and cheer people up. That doesn't work. Second counselor says, sounds as though you just can't take any more. You've had a hell of a time, and now you'd like to see if something can be done about it. Okay, that's a 4. That's a reframe and latching on to a little bit of the hope and adding in what can be done about it. Okay? Third counselor, yes, life does have many sides to it. What does life mean to you? That's a 1.5. That's not concrete. It doesn't really, it's life does it. It's very esoteric and it's very abstract. It's not useful. It's not a reflection at all, is it? And then the last one, you're really down. Seems like life isn't worth it anymore to you. It sounds like even though things are really bad, though, you don't want to quit on yourself yet until you've seen what else you might be able to figure out. Okay, that's another 4. Okay? All right. So I hope you got all that. I want to throw in a few rules of thumb. Okay? They include that unless you keep firing off ones and twos, you're doing fine. If you hit threes, great. To start with, threes. Throughout counseling, in any stage of counseling, threes are going to be what you use. You're going to use because you got to prove that you understand what they're saying. Okay? But you'll also have fours and you'll also have some fives as you move forward. Okay? Now, this issue of reflecting is a tricky, simple, that's not a word, tricky and simple on the surface to do. But good reflection actually helps people move forward if you do it well. Okay. Clients are going to know when you're right or wrong. They're going to tell you, no, I don't feel that way, or no, I don't think that's right. And as long as you're not wrong all the time, you're okay. They'll correct you. You can get it wrong once in a while. That's okay. Of course, you have to do more than just reflect. That's not the bulk of any style of therapy, except Roger's person-centered therapy. Okay? And he was really good at it. So you'll do more than just reflect. That's where the techniques of individual kinds of therapy come in. But again, you will always use reflection. You will always use this kind of system as you respond to clients, okay? In addition, you will use the specific techniques of that particular style of therapy. Okay. Talk to you again later. Bye.